Everybody, welcome into Going Public. I am Harry McCullough. Tonight we're talking about the Terrebonne Port Commission, and the executive director is David Raveley. He is here to talk to us. Thanks so much, Dave. What's happening in the port right now?
A little bit of everything. Before we get into it too much, I got two marine safety information bulletins that just came out that I would just like to announce real quick. The first one that came out was for this whole week. And it's about the Bubba Dove. They're doing some work on it, so there'll be intermittent closures of the Homer Navigation Canal, Bubba Dove floodgate, and recur during the daytime hours from December 6th to December 10th. So it's almost done, and they just want everybody to be cautious when they get in that area.
So they're fixing some of the stuff that happened from the
right.
storm, and obviously it's not hurricane season, so they're getting to work now.
That's right. And so the contract crews are on Channel 13 if you need to, get in touch with them. The second one just came out today. There's been shoaling in the Homer Nav since the storm. There was a couple of boats that had problems in there today. Running aground, and we got about 11 feet from mile 7 to mile marker 10, and the dredge is out there dredging as we speak. The dredge is actually at mile marker 6. Mile marker 6 headed towards the north. So they'll be at mile marker 7, which is where they're having the problems right now. So have to just kind of wait. It's going to take another month or so before they can get at least one path open in the bay at 17 or 15 feet.
And is that just normal this time of year? You'd have shoaling like that?
Yes and no. We got more because of the hurricane, but we always have shoaling. The bay is 12 feet deep, okay, or 11 feet deep, whatever, and it just self-levels. So the channel, the minute we dredge it, it just starts self-leveling again, and it gets to 10, 11 feet.
Does it's just, I don't know about the depths of the water. You know how you go duck hunting around here? The water's a lot lower this time of year.
Yeah.
Does that make a difference in the bays like that?
Absolutely. That's the tide. The tide, when you have a higher tide, you have more water. Because everything is measured from zero. Okay, so if you have a +1 tide, then you have an extra foot of water. If you have a -1 tide, you have a foot less of water. So, the north winds blow it gets shallower in the wintertime because of the north winds.
I got you.
So, anyway, those are just two marine safety bulletins that we wanted to get out there. You can look them up and just be careful in those areas.
All right. So let's talk about the maintenance dredging, and it's always a critical issue. And so what is the status now?
Okay, so the maintenance dredging, we spoke last time. We had funding of $12.3 million from Hurricane Ida, with additional funding. The original project started last July. We had the dredge in there. They had to demob because of the storm. And at that time, they had only 514,000 cubic yards in the bay to remove. Hurricane Ida increased that total to over 1.5 million. So it's about 1 million additional cubic yards from the previous few months ago when they were doing their contract. The Corps received that 12.3 million in October specifically for Ida, which they're going to use on that to supplement the contract that's ongoing with Weeks Marine to dredge that additional material. And they may even be able to use some of that money for Cat Island Pass. They anticipate approximately 5.5 million in additional costs. So the total would be about 11.1 million, and they got 12.3. Now, also for the new fiscal year 22, the Corps is scheduled to receive another 12.5 million. These funds will be utilized for inland dredging and for more bay work if needed. So the dredge Ellison began dredging on November 24th. It's a 30-inch dredge, and its production rate and advancement is very, very good right now. They're about 36% complete with the 10-mile length of cut from mile 1 to mile 11. So pretty soon they'll be at that mile 7 section and start getting all of that out too. So that's good. And at the current rate of production, the bay dredging could be completed in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, so that 30-inch dredge, that's a big dredge.
It's a huge dredge. It's one of the biggest that they make, and it really puts out a lot of material. The discharge pipe is 30-inch, is what that means.
Right. So where are we at on the status of the deepening, which is always such a critical issue for you guys?
The deepening is equally as critical, like we said, and the maintenance, as the maintenance. So both issues have a major impact on our local economy. The deepening is a very large capital project, an estimated cost of $350 million. The port is working with GIS and the state to get the pipelines lowered and acquire spoil disposal right-of-ways. That's one of the local match things that we have to do. There's over 34 utilities, which could be anything from oil field pipelines, electric lines, sewer lines, water lines, etc. They need to be investigated, located, and either lowered or removed. It's a tedious but necessary part of the project. The utility relocations can be very costly depending on the language and the right-of-way agreements that are signed at the time the utility was installed with whatever company. If it's an oil company, right, you have to have a right-of-way agreement. The goal is to have these utility lines completed, and I know this is a very, very tough, strenuous goal, but I want to do it in 3 years, okay? Mainly because the Bubba Dove and floodgate, the lock and floodgate complex that they're just started to work on now. They designed it and they're starting to award pieces of it now. It's going to take 3 years to complete, and we can't dig anything until it's in place. So if we get everything else done prior to that, then when the Bubba Dove is complete, we're going to be ready to start dredging, okay?
Yeah, that does seem like, does that seem like a doable time frame? I mean, you said 34 utilities, and was that about a 12-mile stretch? Yeah,
well, no, that's in a 30-mile stretch.
30-mile stretch.
35, actually.
So you'd have to find all those things, and most of the time, you talked about getting right-of-ways, and then bury them further down.
Yeah, either directional, bore them, but you have to work, like if it's a oil pipeline, you have to work with the oil company. They actually lower it.
Right,
you have to pay them, but they lower it. If the right-of-way agreement says that some of the right-of-way agreements, the language is a little different, and you may have to split the cost. So we got to get each right-of-way agreement for each utility, locate the utility in the field, go over the right-of-way agreement, meet with the owner, and then negotiate getting it lowered, okay, or removed altogether if they're not using it anymore.
What was like a normal depth at when those utilities might have gone in, just for an example?
So back then, you probably had to have 3 to 5 foot of cover. All right, so if you put a pipeline under a channel, you have to make sure you had 3 to 5 foot of cover. The federal government has changed that. And I'm not sure exactly what it's either 11 or 15 feet now that you need cover. So any of them that were put in earlier, and if they abided by the minimum cover, we're going to have to, deal with all of them. But like I said, some of them may be abandoned lines, and there's clauses in these agreements that may require them to pay to remove it because it's abandoned.
And if you hit a federal one where it had to be a federal.
Everything's federal because the channel is maintained by the federal government.
So if it was 11 feet under and now you're going to go further, do you have to put it 11 more, or can it be at 7 now?
No, if it's at least 11 feet or whatever the requirement is, I think it's 11, it might be 15, but anyway, if it's at least that, then you don't have to fool with it. Okay?
I got you.
We locate it, we make sure we know where it is, and we get the depth, and we good to go with that one.
Yeah.
But most of the times these pipelines want to kind of rise up,
right, right.
And they usually lose cover because of the dredging and everything else. So, right. We got to find them.
Real interesting stuff that you don't know about that's going on out there.
Yeah,
for sure. And I'm sure, like the back of the bottom of the Gulf, with all those pipelines, most people don't even know they're under there.
Yeah,
but it's like interstate highway.
If you look in the Gulf of Mexico, and there's pipeline maps, and it looks like a spider web. There's so many of them, and that's just pipelines. A lot of oil companies install flow lines, which is a line that goes maybe from this platform to that platform, and it's not considered a pipeline. So a lot of those now they're pretty much documented when they install them, but way back in the
Yeah.
60s and 70s, they didn't document all of that. So, you know, you had to find an old tool pusher that worked on that rig. Where's that line at? Oh, I think it's over there, you know, and that's how they did it, you know.
Yeah. Till a boat anchor comes through there. And
That's
they
right.
find it.
They find them pretty easy.
No, that's real. That's real interesting. So, before we take a break, it is important this time of year, though, right, for the Houma Navigational Canal, especially in December, right?
Yeah.
More critical, and why is that?
Well, you know, it is a little more critical, especially the night of December 25th. Not too many people know this, but Santa's sleigh lands in the Houma Navigation Canal every year to deliver presents to the good boys and girls. One year it ran aground. Okay, I mean, and it's a lot of work. I stay up all night. And in areas to the north, Santa can land his sleigh in the snow, but in the south he has to use waterways. Each year the North Pole notifies all the southern ports and the port directors as to what water depth Santa needs to successfully land. And this year, you know, I don't know, we must have had a lot of really, really good kids this year, because Santa's sleigh will require almost 20 feet of water to land.
It's heavy.
And it's bad. I mean, look, however, but, you know, that the good part about that is that there's a lot of good kids, okay? The bad part about it is we got to get it dredged. Some of Santa's elves that reside in Washington, D.C., I didn't know that. A few of them, real special, Elf Scalise, Elf Graves, Elf Kennedy, and Elf Cassidy, stepped in and sent Terrebonne Parish a dredge this year. And the dredge will have the channel deep enough for Santa and will be on standby if needed. It's good to know elves in high places.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back with Going Public after this.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Led by a 7-member commission, the Terrebonne Port was created to assist our local industry in promoting economic development. We monitor government regulations that affect our local industry and work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to secure maintenance dredging funds. Because the HNC is the main artery for the heartbeat of Terrebonne's economy, Terrebonne Port fights a constant battle for funding to maintain the federally authorized navigable depth. We are now leasing waterfront and non-waterfront property. Terrebonne Port Commission, serving our industry to keep Terrebonne thriving.
Cardiovascular Institute of the South's Ambulatory Surgery Center offers patients advanced and innovative outpatient procedures using the latest technology and treatment options. The first of its kind in the region, this center provides our patients and their families with high-quality care in a convenient, comfortable, and safe environment at a lower cost. Trust your care to the cardiovascular care team you know and love at CIS. Learn more at cardio.com.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Hey everybody, welcome back into Going Public. Harry McCullough here. David Rabelais, the Executive Director of the Terrebonne Port Commission, is with us. He last time he was telling me about Santa's sleigh, and he needed 20 feet. I did not know that he came down to HNC,
Yep.
and that's real important.
It is.
We got some good elves working for us, but what else do we have going on with all the DC politics, and how's that affecting, with all the change and everything that's going on, how's that affecting us when the ports and everything in this region?
Well, all I can say is thank God for our elves. Okay, we hit a good one with them this year. DC politics, that's a real broad question. Some of the issues and discussion of what's going on and the effects. We'll go ahead and list some of these issues. Well, first of all, they just had a lease sale,
right,
that's a very good big win for us.
Yeah.
In the oil and gas industry. The Bureau of Ocean Energy held the Gulf of Mexico lease sale for federal waters last month. 33 companies submitted 317 bids that generated almost $200 million. And today at the SCIA's luncheon, a lady that's very, very high up in Shell, she's in charge of this whole region, and she was commenting on the lease sales that they were able to get and acquire all the leases that they had anticipated on getting, so it was good for them.
Is that big, high, low, 33 companies and 317?
That's good. That's really
right.
good. It's, that means that there's going to be 300 or maybe 320 different areas where they may set up drilling rigs and start drilling or explore.
Right.
Okay, it starts with the exploration. So it's a good thing.
Is that high because of the moratorium that we've been?
Well, they didn't have a lease sale when Biden came in. They did away with the lease sales, and so this is the first one under the Biden administration, and we just feel fortunate that it happened, and that we hopefully are going to move forward.
Right.
The government shutdown last week. Congress passed a stopgap funding measure that will keep the government open through February 18th, and then they got to deal with it again. Last month, Congress passed a $1 trillion Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that the president signed into law. Ports and waterway messaging made an impression on the White House, as evident in the president's statement. He said, "Our ports and waterways need repair and imagination too." What that means, I don't know, but the legislation invests $17 billion in port infrastructure and waterways, plus $25 billion for airports. These funds will address repair and maintenance, backlogs, reduce congestion and emissions with electrification and other low-carbon technologies. So the imagination part, I think, has to do with the hydrocarbon emissions, and they're cracking down and doing a lot of that stuff. So,
well, another big part of it is they got all those boats off those ports in Long Beach and California and a couple of those things, and they could get the boats in. They just don't have truck drivers. There's a bunch of different things in the supply chain. Thank goodness we don't have a bunch of boats sitting offshore.
And so one of the big things that's come to light is that when boats just idle for days and days and days, they're running off of diesel generator power, and they emitting hydrocarbons into the atmosphere. Right. Well, there are entities coming up with ways here in our area to build these shore power stations, where if a boat's going to stay here for 5 days, instead of running on generator, they just plug into it, and there's a way that energy gets paid, the ports get paid, and it's cheaper for the operator, and it's more environmentally sensitive. So those are the kind of things that are starting to, come about that are really going to help.
Interesting.
The environment, all right? And for the record, all ports are very in favor of the environment,
Sure.
Our big issue is jobs, okay? We're fabricators here, so whether we got to fabricate windmills or rockets or bridge girders or boats for the Corps, boats for the, Coast Guard, we fabricate anything, and we're good at it, and that's what we look for. So anything that brings in work, we're and especially when it helps the environment.
Sure.
We really want.
We live on the coast,
exactly.
man. We care about the environment for sure.
And the $17 billion for ports and waterways also includes U.S. Army Corps of Engineers funding and funds for land ports of entry. So that $17 billion looks good for all the ports in the United States, but it's going to get watered down. So, right now the state is asking us to list all shovel-ready projects that we have. One of mine is the Homer Navigation Canal deepening. I also have a shovel-ready project for my boat launch at the office to upgrade it, and the rocks along the H&C near Timberler Island. So I sent those 3 projects in as my wish list. And depending on what we end up with, we get. The Biden's administration Build Back Better Act of $1.75 trillion recently passed the House, but has to go through the Senate, and there's going to be a pretty deep partisan fight in the Senate. Okay, so that's later on. So we'll see if that comes out. That's going to be an additional $175 trillion. So, that can go a long way.
That's a lot of money for sure. So anything going on at the state level, and the state's been so good for kicking in different things like that. So where are we at on the state level?
So the state's an extremely good partner for the port, and I know for the levee district and everybody. From now through March 22nd, the Division of Administration will be completing the review of the capital outlay requests for the upcoming legislative session. Everybody puts in their requests, and they go through them, and they weed them out, and the governor's office or the Division of Administration kind of makes the math work, okay, and then gives those recommendations to the governor. The governor takes those recommendations, and he works his magic, and that becomes the original capital outlay bill. All right, and then it goes to the legislature starting March 14th, which when it starts. Let's see, the bill travels through the legislative session. Well, the governor submits it March 21st, even though the session starts on the 14th, and then the session ends on June 6th. Okay, Louisiana received $101 million as the first installment of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which was the money we talked about first. Okay, not the 1.75, but the first one that we're supposedly going to get $17 billion for ports. Louisiana received the first $101 million. Louisiana expects to receive $6 billion from the bill, with the first batch of funds will go towards working drinking water systems in the state. You'd be surprised that about 1 out of 5 of the 1,300 systems in parishes and municipalities, 1 out of 5 don't meet Louisiana Department of Health and Environmental Quality standards. Okay, so this is huge, and so this money needs to go to that, so we can get the whole state on a good water system. And our delegation, they had an article in the paper where they quoted Jerome was talking about this, saying there's still areas where when you take a bath in brown water, and not, and at this level stage in this world, it shouldn't be like that, especially in this country.
Right. Well, you got Flint, Michigan types that was over pipes and lead, different pipes that they changed the water that went through it. You also got New Orleans that's got 300-year-old pipes and that kind of stuff. And then we're dealing with a different thing because of the way we get our water, where there's enough fresh water and salt water. So I think all of that will go into that.
So they're gonna do a lot of that. They're gonna change all these lead pipes, and probably come in our area and change some of these pipes have asbestos on the outside of them. So they have to be changed. So a lot of that's going to go on, and that's a good thing. I mean, I want the money to go towards that, and to get that straightened out. The next item that they're talking about in the news is the St. Tammany will vote whether or not to allow a casino to relocate from Shreveport to Slidell. Chef John Foss is involved, Drew Brees, and they're planning to open a steakhouse and a casino if approved. So you're getting a lot of negative. You're getting a lot of negative ads from the Mississippi casinos because they don't want them opening, and So and I think they were saying that some of the local law enforcement in that area doesn't want it, but from a.
Hey, look, we all got a casino on our phone now.
Exactly. And there's there's going to be crime whether they got a casino there or not, and
Well, the good thing, they can get some infrastructure out of it. It's not just a boat they can pull up and sail off somewhere else. So
Right,
if they
right.
get the infrastructure,
And the jobs.
it's a different thing.
And the
Yeah.
jobs. I
Right,
mean, it
sure.
creates Shreveport's crying because they're losing this thing. And I mean, it's worth a lot of money.
Right,
So
no doubt. Hey, we got a minute left, and let's talk a little bit about, you talking about some of the workers, or you know, you're trying to create jobs. Do we have the infrastructure now after the storm to get workers in here to be able to go to work for those
Well, that's
companies?
kind of it's a twofold question. You know, everybody in this area has shingles that they need put on their roof. They need sheetrock. They need insulation. They need, you know, floors and ceilings and all of that. And everybody's needing that all at the same time. And you know, you got contractors and you got material, and it's just going to be a while before all of that
Right.
catches up, you know. So
Well, you know, and yeah, we were just talking with Tita, you know, just can we bring in a bunch of work, you know, at a port if we don't have the workers or places to stay? But
and kudos to Tita for
That's
getting those trailers here. That was a huge
absolutely.
deal, man.
absolutely. Well, David, we appreciate it. David Rabelais, thanks for the update on the port.
Thank you.
That'll do it for this edition of Going Public. I'm Harry McCullough. We'll see you guys next time.